Today we're going to be talking about faulty beliefs and assumptions you might have about yourself and the world, and how these subconscious beliefs might be causing feelings of depression and hopelessness. Hi everyone. We all tend to hold various beliefs and assumptions about ourselves, other people, and the world more generally. These underlying beliefs and assumptions serve as a bit of mental shorthand to help us organize and understand the world. And the thing is, we may not fully be aware of some of the subconscious beliefs and assumptions that we actually hold. Now, for the most part, this isn't a problem, but when a person is experiencing depression, there can be a number of faulty beliefs and assumptions that can fuel the depression cycle. And that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. But before I get into that, just a couple of disclaimers to go over. I'm a registered psychologist in the province of British Columbia, Canada, and this video is for informational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute or replacement for advice from your doctor or mental health professional. Now, with those things out of the way, let's start talking about faulty beliefs and assumptions in depression. Now, this is going to be the first in a three-part mini-series on subconscious beliefs and assumptions that fuel depression. Now, these are common underlying beliefs and assumptions that underlie depression, and many of these assumptions were identified over 50 years ago by psychologist Albert Ellis. So these are nothing new, but unfortunately these faulty beliefs and assumptions continue to stand the test of time. The thing about these beliefs and assumptions is that they tend to be implicit and not necessarily beliefs and assumptions that we're fully aware of. So as I'm discussing some of these negative beliefs and assumptions, you might be thinking to yourself, that's silly, I don't believe that, or I know that's not true. But the point is not to think about these beliefs and assumptions as, do I believe these to be true? But more, do I act as though I'm believing these things? Are my emotional reactions consistent as though I believe these things? And if you find that your emotional reactions or behaviors are consistent with these beliefs and assumptions, then that might be a sign that these are subconscious beliefs that you actually hold and which may be contributing to feelings of depression. So the first common faulty assumption I want to talk about is the idea that everything I do must be absolutely perfect, otherwise I'm a failure. This belief is at the core of perfectionism, and there tends to be a high degree of societal pressure to strive for perfection, which tends to underlie this belief. The problem with this idea is that nobody's perfect, and nobody does everything perfectly. In fact, pretty much everything we ever do has some degree of imperfection to it. But if you hold the belief that everything needs to be perfect, or you need to be perfect in order to feel good about yourself, in order to not be a failure, what can end up happening is that you'll never be satisfied with anything you do. There's no success. There are no accomplishments, only failures, and I could have done better. The other problem with this belief is that it often causes people to avoid trying new things and avoid stepping out of their comfort zone, because inherent in learning something new is making mistakes. So I might stay in an unfulfilling job or career because I know it well and I do it well, even though I don't really enjoy it. I may not take up any new hobbies like skiing because I might fall a lot. I won't try to learn how to play a musical instrument because it won't sound very good when I first start. And if I feel like I always need to be perfect, making mistakes while learning to do something new, will be too intolerable. And as a result, my world and my life will remain small and constricted because I can never branch out to do anything new. Now, the second faulty belief and assumption I want to talk about is the idea that life is fair. Now, this is sometimes referred to as the just world hypothesis. And at its core, assumes that life and the world is fair and just. People who work hard will succeed, while people who are lazy will not succeed. If I'm nice and caring to other people, they will be nice and caring to me. People will evaluate me based on my character and performance, not where I come from or what I look like. The problem with this just world hypothesis is that it's simply not true, despite the fact that I think we all wish it was true. I think we all wish that the world was fair and just, but that's simply not the case. So if you hold this belief that life is fair or that good things happen to good people, think about the implications of what that means when bad things happen. If I hold the belief that life is fair and something bad happens to me, what does that mean? Well, it must mean that I did something wrong in order for the bad thing to have happened. It must be that I'm being punished for something. So whenever anything bad happens to me, this may drive feelings of guilt because I must have done something terrible to deserve this bad thing that's happening. The key point behind this is that no one ever said that life was fair or just. So a big part of this is accepting that the world is not always fair. And that when bad things happen, it's not necessarily punishment for something I've done wrong. It's just that sometimes bad things happen, and that's the way it is. It's not fair or unfair, it just is. Now, a third common depression assumption is that I am only worthwhile as long as I'm doing something for someone else. Now, this is a big one for mothers who always feel like they need to constantly be taking care of other people, putting the needs and wants of others ahead of themselves because that is what they're supposed to be doing. Now, while the notion of serving and caring for other people is not in and of itself bad, the problem becomes when you constantly put the needs of other people ahead of you, when you constantly sacrifice yourself for the good of other people. If you've ever felt guilty or anxious whenever you treat yourself or take time out for you, this faulty assumption may be playing a role in that. People who hold this belief always seem to prioritize the needs and wants of other people and place themselves at the back of the line. And this is a recipe for depression. The key here is to remind yourself that you're important as well, and that taking care of yourself is not some sort of selfish indulgence or luxury, but that it's a necessity. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're eventually going to burn out and drain your fuel tank, which means you won't have anything left to take care of other people. And if I burn myself out and I'm not able to help people the way I used to, this will likely lead to me feeling even worse about myself because now I'm not taking care of people the way I should be. And this just leads to even more depression. And the last common faulty belief and assumption I'm going to be talking about is this idea and the notion that anger is bad. If you think about anger being bad, we often think about certain emotions that on a societal or cultural level, we identify as being good emotions versus bad emotions. Now, good emotions are things like happiness and joy, contentment, and being at peace. Whereas bad emotions are things like sadness, guilt, fear, anger. Many of us are taught to suppress or ignore anger, viewing it as bad, irrational, destructive. As a result, we try to bottle up or deny feelings of anger, which is rarely successful and often leads to more feelings of resentment and even stronger anger. The key is that anger, in and of itself, is not bad. Anger is normal. It's a healthy human emotion. The purpose of anger is that it helps us recognize when someone is doing something to cause harm to me or someone I care about, or when someone is crossing my personal boundaries. And when I feel angry, it helps activate me to engage and address the problematic behavior through things like saying no or standing up for myself. The idea is anger pushes me to take action to stop the harmful behavior of the other person. So when you view it that way, anger isn't bad, but rather a necessary emotion to protect ourselves and the people that we care about. Anger only becomes problematic if it's expressed in violent or harmful ways, either verbally or physically. But verbal or physical aggression is not the only way to express anger. And so rather than seeing anger as bad and something to be ignored or suppressed, the focus should be more on appropriate and productive ways of expressing the anger. So things like being assertive, being able to say no, being able to stand up for yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, this is just the first in a 3-part video series on faulty assumptions and beliefs that drive depression. If you want to learn more about other common faulty beliefs and assumptions, please keep an eye out for those other 2 videos that will be following this one. So I hope that gives you a good introduction on some of these faulty beliefs and assumptions. I would love to hear your thoughts or questions about this, so please leave me some comments in the comments section down below. If you've been enjoying my videos and would like to see more, please hit that subscribe button and notification bell, and you'll be alerted every week when I post a new video. So that's all for today's video on faulty beliefs and assumptions. Thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video, and I will see you in the next one.